Okay, let's get started. Okay, so if you look on the daily work folder and inside of the folder with today's date, there's this HTML file. Okay, so first order of business, our final exam is going to be on the 6th, okay, from 11:30 to 1:30 p.m. Okay, so it's a 2-hour exam. Let me just click on the study guide. Okay, so for the exam, you're responsible for being able to write SQL scripts for creating tables and views. Okay. You need to, again, be able to write down the SQL commands for select, insert, and update. You need to understand the concept of normalization. You should be able to talk about in essay questions PGSQL functions versus PHP functions, and then talk about in essay questions Python programs that interact with databases. There's going to be essay questions on the topics that's listed. There will be some questions where you have to come up with the appropriate SQL commands to either create a table or a view or both, and then questions that require to come up with the SQL to do either select, insert, or update. Okay. Any questions at this point on the final exam? Okay, so reminder, not for the final exam, but in terms of the course evaluation system surveys, I checked, and so far 5 out of 22 people have participated, which is not even close to 80%, so I think 13 more people have to participate. You still have time. You have until Thursday this week, I think probably midnight, to participate in any of your courses evaluations. So I strongly encourage you to do so, not just for this class, but others as well. But if at least 80%, so 18 people out of the 22 participate, then that's an extra 5% that gets included in your score. If not, then your overall score will be based on 95% completion instead of 100%. Okay, but it's like a free 5% if you get participate. I didn't add any extra questions, so it's relatively short, so it won't even take up much of your time. So please do so. Please participate. Okay. So if you run into any, think of any questions between now and the exam, final exam, make sure you bring those things up. It's a 2-hour exam, so it's not going to be super long, okay, but you do need to be able to address all of those areas. Okay, so let's go to the next topic, binder check. So sometime today, if you have your binder ready, then you should show it to me. There's a 3-hole punch up in front here. It's not a heavy duty one, so I wouldn't try to punch through more than 10 pages or so. And that's mine, so don't break it. Okay. So we'll have some time for that, and so you should have sections for the handouts, labs, projects, and exams. Should be in chronological order. So your lab should be lab 1, lab 2, so forth. Exams, exam 1, exam 2, and so forth. Okay, and if you show it to me, it looks okay, then you get full credit for that part of it. That's another 5% of your grade. So again, very easy way to get 5% of your grade that you have 100% on. Okay, so make sure you get that done. If you don't have it today, you can bring it next time. Okay, and if you don't bring it next time, or you bring it next time and it's unacceptable, the final exam is the last day to show it to me and get credit for it. Okay, so if you don't have it today, next time is okay. Last possible time is the final exam day. Okay, so you have basically today and 2 more chances if you don't have it done yet. Okay, but hopefully you do have it done. Okay, then let's go to look at Lab 10. Lab 10, the PDF file, I changed it a little bit. The wording, I didn't like it, and then I wanted to make sure you put 2 screenshots. So let's talk about this a little bit, then we'll go on to the different things associated with this. Okay, so in Lab 10, download lab10.zip, expand this to your desktop, okay, and then we're going to start doing things. It's a simple web application. It builds on what you did in Lab 9, which most of you turned in last time. That's good. Okay, you are going to modify it so the car sale can be edited. And then when it says displayed, that just means that after you complete the editing, the update query, then you need to redirect back to home.php. Okay, so we'll go over that in a little while. If you add a PGSQL function to facilitate the update, include the contents of that SQL script used to do that, and include screenshots of home.php before editing the sale and then after editing the sale to prove that it works. Okay, and then turn in, it says LibreOffice Writer, Word document, of course, is fine. All right, so if you take a look at this, okay, the first thing it says to do is get Lab 10 zip from resources. So if you click on this, then it's going to ask you where you want to save it. Okay, so I'm going to just say save file, and then it's going to go to my downloads folder, but I'm going to cut it and then just paste it on the desktop. Okay, so it's here, and I'm going to go to 7-zip. I'm just going to go extract here, and then it makes this Lab 10 folder. Okay, so we got that. Then what we want to do is in the host, navigate to the main Docker folder, the docs folder, create the following directories. So inside of the docs folder, there's a cent280 folder, create a Lab 10 folder inside of it, just like Lab 9. Okay, and inside of docs folder, there's an include folder, then create a Lab 10 folder inside of that. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so I'm just navigating to the main Docker folder. So I'm there in the main Docker folder in docs. In the cent280 folder, I'm going to make a folder called Lab 10. Okay. The one inside the cent280 folder, that's where your main PHP scripts are going to go. Okay, so I'm going back up to the docs folder and then down to the include folder, and then I'm going to create a new folder called Lab 10. Okay, so similar to what you had to do for Lab 9. All right, then what I want to do, that's a little too small. Is open up my Lab 10 folder that's on the desktop. Okay, there's a docs folder inside of that. Inside of that, there's cent280. Inside of cent280, there's Lab 10. Okay, so I'm going to copy all these files. And then what I'm going to do is inside my cent280 Lab 10 folder, I'm going to paste it. Okay, so those PHP scripts have to go inside of the Lab 10 folder inside of cent280, because that's where cent280 is where the document root gets mapped to. Okay, so we can get it there. And then then I'm going to go from the docs folder into include, the Lab 10 folder inside of include. Let me move there here. Okay, so from the desktop, include Lab 10. Those are SQL scripts and one PHP script. Okay, I'm going to copy them and paste them into the Lab 10 folder inside of the include folder, right? So the SQL scripts and this PHP script, okay, that goes inside the include, that's separate from inside the web document root. Okay, and if you take a look here, there's a file called all.sql, and actually that will run the two other SQL scripts in the correct order. Okay, so let's go back to this and make sure we don't skip steps. Okay, so using the cent280 man user, create the database lab10_db owned by Bob. Okay, and then we also want to run this, the all.sql script. Okay, so the first step I'm going to do is get the environment variables for my Docker and pipe it into this shell. And I would like to have two shells open. So let me open up a second one and pipe in the variables, environment variables for this. Okay, and then I'm going to change into the main Docker folder in both shells. And in one of the shells, I'm going to start up our containers. Okay, so in this shell, I'm going to go into the Postgres SQL container so I can create the database. Okay, so first I'm going to go cd/home/include/lab10. Okay, so I go into the lab 10 folder. If I do an ls, I can see there's those three SQL scripts as well as lab10.php. Okay, and so first I'm going to go in as a super user. So that I can create the database lab10_db. I'm just going to make the owner Bob, like it says to the directions. I'm going to quit out of there so I can go back in as Bob. Okay, because when I run the all.sql, I want init.sql and add initial data.sql, all of that to get included into the database as the Bob user. Otherwise, the PHP scripts are not going to be able to make the changes we need to make. Okay, so I go /i all.sql. That's a very simple file. All it has is /i init.sql, then /i add initial data.sql. So it runs both of those scripts in the correct order. Okay, so that's why you see it does a bunch of inserts in there. All right, so I just completed step 3 there, okay, and actually step 4 I already did. I copied, oh, I have a mistake here. This should have said lab 10, lab 9, but hopefully you already copied it correctly. Okay, we need to fix the IP address for lab10.php. So I'm going to open this with Genie. And right now the address is localhost, which is not correct. So I'm going to go to this shell here, and I'm going to list all the networks. Then I'm going to inspect the Docker one, 2A06F3, and then pipe the results to group regular expression gateway, where we put -i so it doesn't matter if it's capital, I mean, case insensitive basically. And mine is 172.19.0.1, so that's what I need to change this to. Okay, so hopefully you already started doing this, but that's the kind of thing you need to write into your setup for project 3, right? So make sure you take note of that. Okay, so we now completed steps 1 through 5, and basically we need to modify this so that the sale, oh shoot, why did I write that? It should have been handle edit sale so that the sale is updated. Okay, so let's talk about that just a little bit. Okay, so I'm opening up Chrome, and then what I'm going to do is browse to the Lab 10 folder. I guess before we do that, we ought to type this so we get the correct address. Okay, so 192.168.80.131. Okay. And then :8080/lab10, and the ad sale actually is not even implemented. Okay, so don't worry about that. Okay, what the choose sale is already done correctly. Okay, edit sale is also done correctly. It's handle edit sale that needs to be fixed. Okay, so you can start by clicking on home.php. If this comes up, then that means that you edited lab10.php correctly, because otherwise it wouldn't connect to the database. When I ran that /i all.sql, it ran add initial data.sql, and it already added in these 3 sales. So that's why if you click on add sale, it's not even implemented correctly. Don't worry about it, because you have all the sales you need right here. Okay, so if you click on edit sale, it lets you choose which sale. Okay, so if I did this, I chose Jane Doe's sale to edit, then this page, okay, which is my edit sale, allows you to change which car Jane Doe is buying. Okay, that's all that the edit sale allows you to do, is just change this, whichever one it was. Okay, so that doesn't work yet, so I'm going to leave my page here, and then let's talk about updating that sales record. Okay, so we come back to here. It's always a good idea to open up what init.sql looks like. Okay, so we got customers, we got cars, we got sales. Sales keeps track of the customer ID and the car ID. When we edit a sale, we're not trying to change the customer ID, because otherwise we would be changing who's buying the car. It's more for a given customer, we want to say, oops, we made a mistake as to which car they bought. We're going to change the car that that person bought. So what we need to do is change the car ID. When we do that, we have to do something like update sales, right? Update table name, set car ID to the new car ID, the different car, whatever they actually bought, okay? Where the ID is whatever the sales ID is. So we need to keep track of these two things, the car ID and the sales ID, an ID from the sales table. Okay, if you look at this, it's good review, okay, to look at this to see how the sales view is defined. Okay, so basically it selects customers.id as cus ID, all these things. So first name, last name, okay, cars.id is car_ID, because there's two ID fields, so you need to use aliases for that. Okay, then the make, model, price, and then the sales ID, there's a third ID coming in, okay, from customers join sales. Okay, so let's take a look at that, right? Customers join sales, that means that the customers.id needs to match sales.customer_ID. And you can see it right here in the foreign key constraint that's created by that line. Okay, so that's how customers join sales. Okay, and then join with cars. So sales now needs to be joined with cars. So look at this line right here. Okay, where sales.car_ID matches cars.id, and that's what you see right there. Okay, so a good thing to look at okay, when you're studying for the exam, because that's a good example of the kind of view that you would have to write. Okay, if you can write down correctly the lines that basically create the foreign key constraints, then that tells you exactly how to write the view. Okay, just get some practice at that before the exam, so that won't be a problem. Okay, so as I said, we need to update the sales table. We're going to go update sales, set car ID to whatever the new car ID is, where ID equals whatever the sales ID happens to be. Okay, so I'm going to, in this directory here, that I'm in right here, I'm going to go and write a script, a PLPG, that has a PLPG SQL function in it to update the sales. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so I'm just going to go new. I'm just going to call this update funcs.sql. I'm going to save this. I'm going to make sure that it's in my lab 10 folder inside of the include directory, right? Outside of the web document root. So inside of include, not cent280. Oops, I messed that up, sorry. I should have named it update funcs.sql. Okay, so you don't have to do this, but this is how I would do it if I were trying to set this up. So I'd go drop function if exists, and I'm just going to call this update sale. And for this, I need to pass a couple of integers. One is the car ID, the other is the sales ID. Okay, so that's how I'd start it. Then I go create function update sale. Okay, and so I'll say car ID, which is an integer, and then the sales ID, which is an integer. It returns nothing, so void as. Then we have our dollar symbols there, and then the language. And this one is fairly straightforward. Okay. What we do is we do the update query. So how does it work? Update, the table name is the sales table, right? Update sales, we gotta update sales right here. Set, let's look at sales car underscore ID, that's how it's spelled, equal to the past value, the value that's passed for car ID, where, so look at the init.sql, where the ID equals the past value for the sales ID. Okay, and that's basically it. Okay, so you don't have to do it this way. You could actually put an SQL statement like that into your handle edit sale.php. But I'm going to do that, and since I have that saved in the correct folder, then I should be able to include it. Okay, so let me do the following. I'm going to go select star from sales view. Okay, so Jane Doe, right, has bought a Toyota Corolla. I can see that in mine. So I'm going to I'm going to test it right before I go to the PHP script. I go select, update, sale. And what I want to do is the sales ID is 1 and the car ID is 1 for Jane Doe. So I'm going to say I want Jane Doe to buy the Toyota, let's go one that we know. So we're going to go 3, Honda Accord, and the sales ID is 1. Yeah? So car ID is 3. We're going to change it from Toyota Corolla to Honda Accord. And then for the sales ID of 1, because that's for Jane Doe when she bought that. So let me hit an enter here. It says that it was updated. So if I do select star from sales view, what happens is Jane Doe now bought a Honda Accord. So I tested my function without even doing any of the PHP. If I go back to my page and I reload this page, then it shows that Jane Doe has a Honda Accord. Okay, in fact, if I go back to this and I reload this page, right, it shows she has a different car purchased under home.php. Okay, so what I'd like to do is then change handle edit sale, not handle add sale, but handle edit sale, so that what I just did in the back end with the database directly can occur through this PHP script. Okay, so let's start looking at that. Excuse me. Okay, so I go to the cent280 folder, lab 10, and the script that I have to edit is handle edit sale.php. So if you look at this, this is incorrect. This should have said handle edit sale. So afterwards I'll go back and change that. Okay, so handle edit sale. So what happens is that we got a connection that's already in the script. We got our 2 post variables. One is the car ID, one is the sales ID. That's exactly what we need to get past to it in order to get it to work. Okay, so the first thing I do is I go SQL equals select update sale, and I'll put a placeholder variable for the car ID and a placeholder variable for the sales ID. Hey, now, if you didn't want to create that update sale PLPGSQL function, instead you would put update sales, right, set car ID equal to a placeholder for car ID, space where ID equals a placeholder for the sales ID. So you could do it that way also, right? You don't have to do it this way. If you do it this way, just include a copy of your update funcs.sql script. Okay, so not the only way to do it, that's just the way I chose to do it. This is my personal preference, okay, not set in stone. But I do it this way because then in the back end with just the database, I can test this function and make sure it's working. And then what I have to write down here for my SQL is simple, simpler than what I would have to do. But this is not a real hard query, update query, right? You could have just said update sales, set car ID equal to the placeholder for the car ID, space where ID equals to the placeholder variable for the sales ID, right? So that would be okay too. Okay, so you could do that, and no problem with doing it that way. It's just that I don't like to do it that way because then I'm testing out my SQL update query, okay, when I'm doing the PHP, and I would rather have tested it in the back end first, okay? But that's just personal preference for me. Okay, so regardless of which way you do it, I'm going to call the prepare function on the SQL script, okay? So that would be the same even if you did your SQL differently from the way that I did it. And then I'm going to create an empty array so that I can set values for my two placeholder variables. Okay, so my first placeholder variable is car underscore ID, and the value for it is this PHP variable right here, $car underscore ID. That's the one that's passed via post. Okay, then I'm gonna set the value for my second placeholder variable, right? This one right here. And that's going to be given the value from this PHP variable here that got passed via post. Okay, so lines 12 through 15, that would be the same even if your SQL statement was different, right? So if you chose to go here, right, update sales, set car ID equal to the placeholder car ID, where ID equals to the placeholder variable for the sales ID. So you did that on line 11. Instead, your lines 12 through 15 would still be the same as this. And then this line here. Okay, so our statement is created, it's been prepared, so now we need to just execute it. But when we execute it, we need to pass the name of the array that fills in the placeholder variables, right? So that's what we have here. And after that gets accomplished, then what we need to do is redirect to home.php and then exit. Let me just move that up a little bit. Okay, so very, very similar to what we did for Lab 9 because we created a PLPGSQL function, or I did. You don't have to. Because what you have to do is set up the SQL statement, okay, so Just select whatever the name of the function is with the placeholder variables. Then you prepare the statement, you set up the array that's gonna plug the values in for the placeholder variables that you see here, okay? And then you run it. You execute it, and then you just redirect back to home.php. So if you look back at your lab 9, and the handle add sale.php is very much like this, except you have different placeholder variables and different values. But it's the same kind of it's the same kind of process. And then, of course, the name of the function was different. Okay, for the add sale or insert sale, something like that. Okay, so I'm looking at this and I'm going to check to see if I have any syntax errors. So I'm going to go to my second shell and go into the PHP Apache container. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go php-l handle edit sale.php, and I got no syntax errors, so I don't have any syntax errors. But I wanted to make sure I was editing and everything in the correct place, so I'm going to just handle edit sale.php. I'm just going to cat it to the screen, and I can see the lines that I just added there. Okay, so that's the correct one. Doesn't have any syntax errors. Doesn't mean it's correct, but it doesn't have any syntax errors. Okay, so suppose what I do then, well, I'll test this. So I go edit sale. Okay, so Jane Doe, I'm gonna switch Jane Doe back to the Toyota Corolla, and I hit submit, and Jane Doe now is Toyota Corolla. Okay, so to kind of complete this, what would I do? I start up a Word document. Okay. Okay, so what it says is for this handout, let's see. Create Word document shows the contents of your handle edit sale.php. So let me come back to this. So let me select that and paste that in there. Okay, I'll change this to some nicer looking font, so I'll just use Courier. Okay, so there's my handle edit.php. Handle edit sale.php, sorry. Okay, then what I also need is, since I did use update sale, then I should put in this. Okay, so let me select that. Oops, wrong one. Okay, paste that in, so that's in there. So I got those two things in there. Then it says to include screenshots of home.php before editing the sale, then after editing the sale. Okay, so let me go back to my web page then. Let's say this is my before editing the sale. Oops. So I copy this, go back to my Word document, and I'll do something like before editing, and then paste that in. It's kind of big. Doesn't really fit. That's okay, then I'll move this to the next page. Okay, so that's before editing, and I'll make another title after editing. And so I go to my page, and I go edit sale. I'm gonna click on Jane Doe. I'm gonna change Doe to Honda Civic. Okay, and it changed, right? So I go back to this. Okay, I copy it, and then I paste it here, and then I got it, right? So Jane Doe, Toyota Corolla, Jane Doe, Honda Civic. So I proved that it worked inside of my application because these are screenshots of the application. Okay, so then I just print that out. Okay, just print it out. So you're using both sides of the paper, and then that's basically it for Lab 10. Okay, so in Lab 10, sorry, let me go back to this again. Okay, so after you finish Lab 10, then go back to your Project 3. Okay, choose request, it tells you what to do. If you've already done this for home.php, you do the same kind of thing for choose request.php. And then handle edit request for Project 3 is done in a similar way to what you did for Lab 10. Okay, so that basically is a hint for Lab 10. So you can go ahead and work on that and then get that to work.